Welcome to today's photo competition for Woodley Photographic Club, featuring Woodley, Wickham, Marlow, Maidenhead and Stoke Poges. I'm your judge today. My name is Martin Patton. I think I've pretty much been at all the clubs before, I think. Maybe not Woodley. I will confess up front that I've seen quite a few of these images, either specifically judging them before or in the St Albans 8-way. It doesn't make a difference, but just, to be clear for everyone, I'm viewing them in the dark, just as if they were being projected, and I'm using a high definition calibrated monitor. This is my third competition today that I've judged, and I know the images come out really nicely and we don't have to worry about any kind of too bright, too dark, etc. So without ado, we'll get on to our first image, which is called Waiting for the Night Shelter to Open. And I'll click on these and make them full size. And I'll do this for everyone, and then I'll put the score in at the end, so that everyone gets a fair crack of the whip and we get a proper look at all of the images. So nice street image to start with, plenty of detail in here. Processed in a very crunchy, contrasty and gritty black and white, which does meet the subject quite well. It goes very well together. He's an interesting looking chap, isn't he? And you can absolutely see why our photographer wanted to get a picture of him, and it has come out quite nicely. Lots of detail in the dark coat. All the creases come out well, as do the creases in this chap's face. It is a shame about the people in the background. I do wonder how long this chap had been sitting here. He is smoking and there is a cigarette butt. Just waiting that little bit of extra time really does help. Having a clear background would have made all the difference. But nonetheless, I think it's a good image to start. I am going to be using a range of 14 to 20. I think that's fair given the quality of the images on display, and an average Camera Club image will be a 16 for scoring. But for this one, I think given the distractions, we'll start with a 17. And I'll just write that in on each one. So we've got it. So I have to save notes. Okay. Okay, this one is called Winter Rowers on the Thames. Hardly a surprise that we get the Thames featured, given the clubs that we've got in here. And it's a really nice atmospheric early morning shot. These crazy idiots are just as bad as photographers and get up at silly o'clock in the morning, and always the better for it. Enjoying the rowers. I think they work very well. The lighting is very soft and sympathetic, and that's always good to see. The format of this is I'm not sure necessarily I feel suits the image. We've got an awful lot of cloud up here, which you've obviously thought, oh, I'm really enjoying that, and we'll include it in the image. But I'm now off wandering around in the clouds, and then, oh no, have to come back into the rowers at the bottom. So I think we probably could have just lost it across, maybe from this corner here across. We didn't need all of it. It doesn't need to be there, but nonetheless it's a very strong image, isn't it? And I think this one is going to be another 17. And there we go. I'm getting the hang of this. Nice piece of software. Not used this before. Okay. Yeah, I've seen this one before. The blue Carpenter B, absolutely stunning and beautiful, isn't it? Really nicely delivered. Wonderful detail. I do wonder if it's focus stacked or shot in a studio. Not that it matters at all. It's really down to the skill of the photographer to get it right. Nice framing, nice positioning. Colours all work very well together. Detail in the wings and the fur in the body is fabulous, and it's obviously interacting with the flower very well as well. I like the fact that it's not slap bang in the middle and vertical. This angle really does give it a nice feel to it. And it's really difficult to knock any marks off for this, isn't it? Maybe just a traditional vignette, maybe darken some of the other areas down, but I think we're splitting hairs. We have got some highlights on here. Do feel they've been dealt with a little bit, but nonetheless, I think this is a really outstanding image. Although there is one that I feel is better later. So this one I think is definitely going to get a good score, and we're going to give this one a 19, and very nicely delivered. Okay, title Young Buds. Yeah, it works quite nicely, doesn't it? They certainly are framed in a nice position against what we assume is the flower behind. Nice key line round it to just hold us in, and the inclusion of the two water droplets that add that extra factor. Very dark around it, but I don't mind that. It's okay. It doesn't impinge on our enjoyment of the image. I think it is a reasonable image. I do find it's just maybe feels a little bit set up with this picture behind it and framing the little buds in the flower. And I just think, the lighting here is maybe letting us down a little bit. So not quite there with some of the others, but certainly, a reasonable image. And this one's going to get a 16. Okay, on to our next one. Yeah. This one is an interesting one, Battersea Power Station. It's been in a lot. I'm seeing lots and lots of different versions of this, and I'm going to have a go myself, I think. This one looks like a fairly reasonable attempt. We've got some nice, strong, powerful lights in the front here, which kind of lead us off into this area rather than into here. We've got some bright, strong lighting going on inside the train shed. Or yeah, it's not a station, is it? It's a train marshalling yard by the look of it. So I think that's okay. I think the piece for me really is this brown sort of light pollution going on in the sky is not brilliant, and I do feel that someone has gone through and darkened down and greyed up all of those starbursts, and I'm not sure you necessarily need to. Judges are reasonable, he says. We expect a light to be bright, and these ones in particular, in the greens and the reds and the oranges, have come out fine. This just looks grey and played around with, which unfortunately, just does devalue the image somewhat. Maybe it's a balance thing, but it feels like we're leaning left to right, and maybe it's this sort of slow drop down from the height as we go down. I'm sure you will have checked it, but these two also look, they're at a slight angle, which again puts me off. So this one isn't quite for me. I'm not a fan of being able to see obvious editing. It really does sort of give, shows the rabbit popping out the hat before it should. So I'm going to mark this one down for that. This one gets a 15, and I'll just put the scores in. Okay, off we go. So our next image, In Two Minds About the Kayaking. This is a what I would call a Marmite shot, I guess. I can easily see half of the audience going ooh, and half the audience going, oh, that's really cool. It really shows some energy and action, and I think it does too. I think the sweep of the paddle here, and I guess this is water, shedding off, or you've drawn them in afterwards. I really don't care. The impression of the rushing water works really, really well, and the multiple exposure of our chap, I think, yeah, it just comes across quite powerfully, doesn't it? I think you've probably darkened the background down a little bit because it gets a little bit halo-y here and there, but I guess that's where you put things together. But I'm enjoying the difference in this. I'm enjoying the creativity of this. And I think it really does work. And just for the creativity and doing something different, this one is going to be getting a 20. So yeah, well done, author. I think it really is fun. And the next judge will come along and say, oh, it's terrible, I don't like it, and give you a 14. But it works for me. So well done. Storm on the Faroes, I think this was one of the ones that was in the St Albans. you know, it's a very powerful, very stormy image, isn't it? And it all works very, very well. But I think there are issues and challenges with it in the same way that the last judge saw it. There are some halos going on around here, and that's probably a function of grittying it up and using the clarity slider. The light here is okay, but what I really want to look at is this amazing wave and what's going on here just outside of the screen. The rocks in the foreground are okay. They're not the most exciting, but I think we're missing the rest of the wave. I'm not too bothered about this area. You know, I kind of feel you could crop here, and then I want to go out another 3 or 4 inches to the left and see what's out there. But it's nicely delivered and it works well. I just think it's not the most important area that you've photographed. And I think that's such a shame. And the obvious editing marks, this one really doesn't work for me. Whilst it's got energy and power, I think the photographer has focused on the wrong element, and really this should have been the strongest compositional element. So this one is a 14. Okay, Bix Woods in Fog. Yeah, an interesting one, this, and I have been through them all as a run through, and just took a couple of seconds look at each one. The lighting, whilst it's got some glow to it, the colour feels off, and I'm not quite sure why. The green looks sort of desaturated as well, and I wonder whether you've toned it down somehow, and it hasn't quite worked. The path starts and then almost leads me out of the frame and then disappears into the back. But I would have liked to have seen some proper shafts of light in here, or another element to lift it up, and I'm finding it's just a little on the sort of drab side. And whether you turned your highlights down or something, or the way you've treated it, it's lost its sparkle, and therefore, you know, really isn't necessarily attractive to look at. But I can see what you were trying to do. I think you need to maybe bring some highlights back and just help it get its sparkle back. But it appears well, you know, well exposed. We got some nice detail in our trunks, and it does appear sharp, but just it's lost its sparkle for me, I'm afraid. So this is another 14. Okay, on we go. Yeah, Amy, I've seen this one before. This works for me. I quite enjoy this. The use of monochrome is very powerful and strong. The way that her dress, although it's black, stands out against the background, I think is very nicely delivered. Let's make it big for you all. I think that works very, very well. A little suspect bright area up here, but I think we're okay with that. They are mirrored sunglasses. Maybe you would have been better with you know, changing the angle of her face. The lighting is quite direct, but I think it does work quite strongly. I enjoy the body position, is very dynamic, and this, you know, grungy black background works quite well as a background. So I'm enjoying this. I think it's been well lit. You've handled your lighting quite well. I would think it would be quite easy to lose these whites, but you can still see there's a lot of detail in there. So yeah, very, very well done. And this one gets an 18. Okay. A sideways glance. Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah, studio and white. I'm never sure white backgrounds work very well for PDIs. It really does come across as very bright. I think maybe this as a print would have been more appropriate. The lighting is quite harsh and direct. We can see here we're really starting to lose some detail in the eyebrow and the cheek, etc., and on the hands as well. The pose is quite nicely done. The skin tones on the back of her actually work quite well, and it's nice to see her look at you. I'm always a little concerned when we see the eyes right in the corner, these great big swathes of white, and they could have been actually whitened up a little bit actually if you wanted to. I just think it's maybe just not quite so nice as showing white on both sides, but it's one of those small elements. Nicely in focus as you would expect it to be. I just think unfortunately the white and the harsh lighting has let you down a little. So this one is a 15. Okay, Water Dragon. Yeah, delightful, isn't it? I think I've seen this one before. Really beautiful, sharp, where we expect it to be. Depth of field falls off quite quickly, but I'm okay with that. We're really getting the side of the face here, and all of the detail is really nice. I feel this is a natural catch light and a natural background. It doesn't feel like it's in a studio. So I think this one does work very well for me. A little bit bright up the top there, maybe would have been nice to have equaled out the background a little more. Same here, still a little bit bright, and we've got, you know, some distracting elements in the background, but I think it does work, and I am enjoying this one, and we're going to give this one an 18. There we go. Okay, Basalt Opportunist. Yeah, well spotted. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Very different. Nice to see something almost like a pattern shot as we enjoy the shapes in the basalt, but then with this, you know, flower just perching precariously in the corner of the frame, and I think that works quite nicely. It's quite a strong image. I think sharpness wise, it just feels a little off. Now maybe that's because of the rock or the depth of field you used, but I don't want to penalise it too much because it just feels a hint off. But I am enjoying the overall feel of this one. I think, you know, did we need quite so much? Yeah, possibly. The flower is small in the frame, but I think, you know, it is about perching in the corner and clinging on for life, and I think you've done that quite well. Only downside maybe is the lighting is just that little bit flat, and these paler areas, you know, are a little bit distracting. If it had have all been this black, I think you really could have, you know, pumped up the contrast and really made this stand out, and I think that would have really helped. But nonetheless, I think this is a nice, well seen, thought out image, and is another 18. Okay, Angry Birds. Yeah, this high key turn thing, as I've seen a few times, and they could come out really nicely. You know, our turn is definitely not particularly very happy at us. Was this shot on Farn or somewhere like that? Unfortunately for you, you've shot pretty much directly into the sun here, and so there are many areas that are burnt out, both on the feathers themselves, you know, and in the sky. And I know high key, we want some of that, but I just feel that this has gone too far. The colours of the red stand out very strongly, and we've got our supporting two birds to give us, you know, the three that always goes down well with judges. But I just think, you know, having nothing in the background would have been stronger. The grey really just doesn't set the bird off, and if you're going to go high key, make it, you know, fully high key. So this one hasn't worked for me and is another 14. Okay, Morning Pollinator. Yeah, we got some lovely light on this, don't we? Beautiful bee. Nice to see the pollen flicking out there. I think that works. Lit up nicely. Nice rim lighting. Plenty of detail in here. Nice to see this is at an angle, and with some nice speckles on there of life. And I think this is quite strong. Could have done with a key line. I think little 1 pixel would have just helped tie us in. But I think is a really pleasant image to look at, and is quite powerful, and is an 18. Okay, Sinking. Yeah, unusual this, isn't it? You wouldn't want to be paddling around in that building, would you? It might be a bit squishy unless you had your wellies on. Our author's got nice and low. I think that works very well. We've got a nice stormy sky going on, all well exposed, nice and sharp in the foreground, mid and far ground, and the inclusion of the boat just gives us that little bit of extra in the distance. I just feel that the lighting is just that little bit flat. You know, doing this at sunrise or sunset would have really helped it, because all of this grass, and there's an awful lot of it, you may not have wanted to get in any closer, because I think you'd have needed wellies to do it, but I just think it's a little bit lacking. The red feels maybe just a little bit tweaked maybe, but yeah, overall I think compositionally, although we can walk our way out here, I think maybe a little bit more space on the right would have just helped give a little bit more context. And I almost feel that we could have cropped across, you know, somewhere here and out there maybe would have just given us a bit more context, as this tends to dominate the frame and stop us getting out into the far ground. So you know, nicely done, but I think compositionally needs some thought. And that one is a 17. Okay, hooks. Yeah, it's a very much a photographer shot, this one, isn't it? You know, nice rusty detail, etc. And you've chosen to give it to us in colour, I guess, for the red. And it's okay, it works. 3 works very strongly, doesn't it? I think the background lighting gets quite distracting. And I'm looking for that extra element and not really seeing it. It's a nice photographer's shot, but is it exciting? Does it set our pulses racing? And I think the answer is not. But I think technically it's been well delivered. Certainly our first guy is nicely in focus. Bit concerned that the guys behind are maybe not quite as sharp as we would like. I think if you're going to show all 3, we really want them to be nice and sharp. So yeah, that lets it down a little bit, and so this one is another 15. Cell count. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Yeah, what's going on? Is it an art exhibition? Is it not? What is it she's looking at? Difficult to know. But it's intriguing, and the lighting is superb, isn't it? I will say your key line is a little strong. Pick a pale grey and 1 pixel would have been better, but this young lady stands out from her background. She looks like she's either being lit by her mobile phone or the subject that she's taking, but it's intriguing, it's interesting, it draws you in. The monochrome has really made a difference, and she does just stand out of her background enough for it to really work, and I'm enjoying this and the intriguing nature of it, and I think it really does work very, very well. And so this one is another 20. Very nicely done. Enjoying that one a lot. Out of the saddle. Yeah, the usual biker kicking off of the sky. The blue in the sky is a little bit insipid. He's definitely frozen in space, and you do sort of wonder, has some form of artificial blur been you know, applied to the wheels, because the front wheel generally stays still. The rear wheel, normally they keep moving as it creates a gyroscopic effect, which helps hold the bike you know, in position. And so I'm feeling like these are a bit as if you've had a play and an edit with it, which just feels weird, because otherwise how would you have frozen him in the sky? So not quite there for me. Needs a little bit more contrast. Apologies for the calibration warning. It's been about a week since I did it. Yeah, it just feels like it needs a bit more punch, really, a bit more contrast and a little bit more colour, but still, you know, a decent image. And he's a 16. Sweetly framed. Yeah, sweetly framed. Is it framed? The frame is kind of cool, but I don't think she's sweetly framed. Some kind of exotic travel photography, somewhere, you know, cool and interesting. Works very well, doesn't it? All in the shade. so lacking any form of lighting or modelling to bring it out. Nice rich colours as you would expect in the shade, and all of that's fine. And we can see here where the sunlight is just falling on the bottom. I might have cloned that all out. You've got enough material here to clone it in, as you know, pale things on the edges of frames are not necessarily so exciting. So it works well. The depth of field, you don't need much, and everything is in focus. I just think, being all in the shade, we've lost some modelling, and it would have been nice. It's become very 2D, and she almost looks like she's painted on, which is not ideal. So this one is for me a 16. Save our notes on that. Okay, Battling Gannets. Is this Mr. Steve Race's boat you're on here? Yeah, plenty of water, plenty of action. Photographers got their shutter speed up high. We've got the two birds going for the same fish. I guess it's been done at a workshop, but they don't really help you out. So it is all down to our photographer to really get it right. And I think in this case, it looks like you've mostly got your whites right. There's plenty of feather detail in there, plenty of action happening. The water is sort of occluding things a little bit, but I think we can get overly picky, and I don't think we should. I think this one does work very, very well. A few suspect whites here and there, maybe just lets the side down just a little bit. So this one is a 19. Plenty of action and lots of behaviour, which is great. Where's the exit? Yeah, are they all the same person? They're not the same person, but they all do look very puzzled, don't they? Good title has really helped me see it. Lots of confusion going on with all the lines and the shapes and the buildings but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it works, and the title of they all look like they're puzzled of where do I go and how do I get out. I think has come across really strongly. The lighting has been very well handled. We've even got detail outside. I'm enjoying this one a lot, and yeah, this one's an 18. Good title. Always good to help the judge out. We do need it most of the time. Okay, Bluebells in the Woodland. Yeah, very nice, very pleasant. Lighting very much centered in the middle here, isn't it? This is very dark and moody, and I think that does work very, very well for this kind of shot. It's very pleasant. We've got blue sky going on in the background, but you've darkened this down, which pushes us into the middle, and I think it's fine. I did look at this the first time. I think, is it leaning? But I think it might be all the trees leaning left, maybe. But I do wonder whether a little bit of a tweak to the right would have just helped straighten up, because most of them seem to go left a little bit. So I do wonder if the horizon's slightly out. I do feel like I want another something, an element in here to lift it. A dog walker, a person with a red coat. Mickey Ashton would send Tone in his red jumper, but I do think that's that extra element. It does feel a little bit like a film set. Sometimes when you've got the beautiful shafts of light coming down and through, that creates that moment of time, but in this case I do think we need something else, but it's still very pleasant to look at, and I think it's been processed very nicely. 17 is definitely above average. Okay, the hard reality of nature. Yeah, I looked at this and was, oh, ow, yes, no, ooh, what's going on? And because you first look at it, and my eyes are drawn to the head of I guess Mum, and that curve of her neck, and we spend some time up in the top of the image, and then we come down and then realise what's going on at the bottom, and nature is red in tooth and claw, and that is a real normal behaviour shot, if you like. Obviously not shot in a zoo or something, so more powerful for that. I just think the lighting is a little bit you know, flat really. We could have done with a little bit of extra light. I know the behaviour is really strong, but we are looking for it to be pictorially beautiful at the same time, and I don't think it's quite there. But nonetheless, I do think it's a very, very strong image, and is another 19. Yeah, just that little bit of extra light, I think, would have really made the difference. Um, Prompt Skillevens. I have no idea what that means. I did judge this the other day, and I find this one a little bit confusing. There are so many elements happening that I'm sure mean something if you googled that title, and I didn't feel that it was fair for me to do so, because I haven't done so for any of the other images. But you know, the meerschaum pipe, the, I guess the wine maybe, walnuts, lemons, oysters, all of those things are important, and it does come across with a very old mastery feel to it. But there are things like this, almost looks like a plaster has been peeled off or something. It's a very, very bright spot. There's like little bright highlights in many places, and I feel this shaft of light is just a little bit on the heavy side, for us to really enjoy it at its best. And this very large, you know, black area at the top just make me feel that the composition isn't quite as strongly as we would like. You know, we've got light areas at the bottom here that maybe we should have just cropped out, as I don't think we needed them. So I think whilst it's quite a powerful, you know, of an era image, it leaves me a little cold, and I'm finding it difficult to engage with it because there's so many elements for me to look at, and the lighting is maybe just not quite what we're looking for. So this one is a 14. Past the House, is the title for this one. I'm reading them out. I know you can read them yourself, but just to remind everyone while we're looking at it, yeah, it's a very beautiful landscape, isn't it? An interesting location. You know, obviously not Woodley High Street, or anywhere in Bucks or Herts. Nice lighting going on here, but that disappears quite quickly into this, you know, not particularly a pleasant looking sky. Is that a sensor spot I notice up there, or just a speck? And there's another one. Maybe it's birds. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. There's certainly some birds in here. I think it works. The red house is very, very dominant. I'm feeling like it really is getting in the way of the image. I'm kind of looking at this and not out here, and because you've had to stand up, I guess because of this shape here, we've got an awful lot of not a lot in the water. I do feel if we'd have got down here, we could have used the rock here as foreground interest and foreshortened the water, and we wouldn't have needed all of this sky that maybe isn't quite so nice, which we've, you know, created the requirement for with this. So it's a pleasant landscape, but it doesn't really enchant me. But it's still very competently delivered. 17. I'll just save this, and I'm just going to take a sip of water as we're halfway. Sorry for the pause there. I've been doing quite a few of these today, and my voice is going a little bit, I think. Okay, nice sports photography. I am going to score. Yeah, good facial expression. You know, in our main protagonist here, I think that works very, very well. Our tackler is definitely trying to get the ball out of the hands, and I think that's you know, really does show the rugby brain of our tackler here. I think that works quite nicely. I think my problem with this is that your depth of field is just not quite where we would like it to be. I think the darkening down these guys at the back is great, and the posts and everything. Yeah, it gives context and everything, but it does work when they're darkened down. We know they're there, but they're out of view. But our problem is that this guy, whether it was your shutter speed or your depth of field, is just not sharp, and he's so large in the frame that I feel is distracting and a problem, and that actually this is where the action is, and that I'd really rather he wasn't there. So it's a good image. I think the facial expression is excellent. Is he going to score the try? Is this guy going to rip it out of the hand? So that the story just lifts it up a little bit, but I just think this guy is just too distracting. And we're going to give that a 16 because this is great, but the rest I think needs some thought. I'm sure you've got plenty, so go and have another look. Ingwe. Yeah, beautiful light in the eyes, beautiful sharp teeth, lovely portrait growling at you, and a very, very powerful sky in the background. Is it real? If we got light in the sky here, and that's where the light's coming from, how have we got a catch light in the eyes? It's a bit strange, isn't it? Is this a sky replacement? Who knows? I almost feel it overwhelms the image because it's too bright and too beautiful, and actually what we really want to be looking at is this. Do we need all this? I don't think so. I probably would have cropped up here. I mean, you could have been really vicious and just cropped it to this, because that's where all the action is. I don't need this area down here at all. So it's a strong image, but I find this overwhelming and this not necessarily required. But man, those teeth are sharp, aren't they? You really wouldn't want to get anywhere near that mouth. So you do get an extra point for the beauty of the portrait, but I think the rest of it is just a little, either underwhelming or overwhelming. But nonetheless, that's a 17. Okay, Stormlight at Amroth. Yes, it's a very simple composition, this one, isn't it? Some beautiful light in the water, the cold blues and the warm golds. Yeah, I just think come across really nicely, beautifully positioned for us to get this lovely shape in the water in front of us, and Mill Pond still I think is fantastic while you've got the waves going on out there. So I think this one does work for me. I like the format of this. I think you could have lost a centimetre off the top, but I'm picking hairs. I just think it's really delightful. Very simple, beautiful light, well held on your your highlights would have been very easy to lose there. If you'd have got a bit lower, would you have got a bit more gold in here? Maybe. You're probably quite low anyway. I think we're going to be a bit generous because I think this is so beautifully delivered, and we walk our way out of the water here, splashing away, and come to this beautiful light. You should be applauded for getting out and actually making this happen. So this one is another 20. Well done. Very, very nicely delivered. Enjoying that one a lot. Okay, Octopus. Yeah, what a interesting and unusual point of view, isn't it? Was this converted with Silver FX Pro? Is that why we've got the great big board around it? I'm not a fan. I don't think it adds to it, but okay, it's your choice. The sepia tonage has worked very, very well. The highlights here are kind of... I'm sort of in that. Are we looking down on it, or almost? We almost look like we're looking up through glass. I do think we're looking down on it because it would have been all squished flat. But what an interesting looking and unusual thing. I do feel like all of these have been artfully arranged, and I guess it was dead. But yeah, I think you've made the most of it. I'm really enjoying the highlights, although they're a little bit suspect here and there. I just feel it gives us a view into another creature, and is that an eye or its beak in there? Yeah, it really does come across strongly, doesn't it? And I think, yeah, we're going to be another generous one, and I think this one is another 20. It really feels composed, thoughtful, and the processing has really enhanced it, I think. Yeah, fantastic, 20. Maspalomas Sand Dunes. Yeah, I've seen this one recently as well, and I think I judged it. Love the three people up there. Think that all works. Enjoy the texture and the detail here. I just think it's come across as very contrasty. This is almost, and I'm really struggling to see any detail in there at all. It's just pitch black, which is such a shame. I do wonder whether this would be better as a print, where the contrast maybe would be dealt with just that little bit more. But I still think it's a powerful composition. The texture and the detail works very, very strongly. We're a little bit halo-y on the horizon, but not too bad. I just think for me, it's this big, strong black area dominates the image, and yeah, it's just a little bit too heavy for me. But nonetheless, I think it's a powerful composition, and the three people up there work very, very well. 17, I think, for this one. Okay, common terns showing their red bills. Yes, they're lovely, aren't they? Beautiful bird, lovely shape in this one. Almost looks like a mechanical plane or something. They're so far forward, aren't they? Nice position and tension between the two of them. I think that works very, very well. We are getting a bit suspect on our highlights here, and we've got some sort of, I guess, pixelation, maybe where you've been playing with this in Photoshop or similar, maybe try to bring out the blue, but there are some graduations in here where we've lost the detail, and it could be in something in the conversion or whatever, but it's a real shame. It's really let it down. I was going to give this a decent score because I do like the position, but the background, there's a big long line here, and there's another one here. It just is really distracting and putting me off, which is such a shame. Go back and have another look, reset it back to 0, and see if you can process it without those in. They're just too distracting for me. 15. La Gibbon. Yeah, beautiful, isn't it? What a lovely portrait. Beautiful detail, really nicely done. You've gone with a pale vignette. I'm not sure necessarily that adds a huge amount for me. It just draws you out to the corner of the frame. Maybe you're just trying to, tie it into the pale colours that we've already got. But I don't think you needed it. The catch light is really strange. It's a straight line, and it almost looks like a set with a strip light set horizontally rather than vertically, and it's just really strange, and it puts me off because the rest of it is delightful. And I'm not sure, is it in a studio? Did you use a flash gun, or I don't know, and that really makes me feel uncomfortable with it. So it's not going to do as well as maybe it would have done, but yeah, just really strange that they're so straight. Yeah, it is. It's weird, and the white vignette, yeah, is just not for me. And it's a shame because the beauty in here is really nice. But this is delightful in here, and so I'm going to get a terrible score, but 17 for me. Carpenter bee. Yeah, very similar to the one of the earlier bees, wasn't it? But I think this one is a stronger image. The yellow, it works really, really well. The monotone of the bee is just delightfully delivered. You have to think it's focus stacked, don't you? Really nice position, fills the frame, really strong. Lighting is sympathetic, no undue highlights, anything. Maybe just a little bit bright up there, but I think we're picking hairs. I think this one is a super strong image and is a 20. Well done and well delivered. Yeah. Henley on Thames in morning mist. Yeah, what a beautiful piece of the countryside, isn't it? Lovely detail, beautiful lighting on here. We're a little bit high up, but there's not really a lot you can do about that, is there? I think you might have lost all that wonderful lighting. Great bags of atmosphere, really super strong. Nice inclusion of the horses in the foreground. Just give us scale. Little barn there. Shame about the wires. I might have had a go at getting rid of those, but even nonetheless, I think for the lighting and the shadows and the atmosphere on this, I just think it's really delightful, and I'm really enjoying it. And I could easily see this one on somebody's wall, and you'd walk by and think, "Wow, look at that! Wouldn't I have loved to be there?" A little bit white here and there, maybe, but on the whole, I think we'd be being a bit picky, and it's nice to see this barn really picked up in these shafts of light. I think that really does come across strongly, and yeah, I think that one is a 20. Well done, and yeah, delightfully delivered image. Marbled white, beautiful detail, lovely detail in the wings, in the flower, very flat lighting so that we've got all of the detail without blowing any highlights. Shame about our antenna up there, but a beautiful soft diffuse background works really, really well, doesn't it? Yeah, a little bit more depth of field maybe, as they are just that little bit distracting, and I am finding this maybe just a little bit too tight in the frame and would have liked a little bit more space really, I think, but nonetheless a very strong image, and that's an 18. Mo Go. Yeah, I saw this the other day as well. It's an interesting image, isn't it? I do think it works very, very well. We all know who he is. The bit that bugged me last time and still bugged me now is where are the people? This is Mo Farah racing, and there's nobody here. It's like a Doctor Who set. Your choice of lens, I said this before, but for everyone else, and you're tilting it up, I guess, to get our Docklands in, has just meant the buildings look really weird and distorted, and I find that uncomfortable. It's probably because you just wanted to get him in and everything else, but it works well. It's a strong image, but I just think this distortion of, you've tried to be a bit greedy. I think I look at him, but then I come up there and I look at that, and then I look at him, and then I look at this, and you almost want to just say, crop it out and say it's Mo Farah. So this one is, in today's company, a 16. Okay. Yeah. Common blue on seed head. It is, isn't it? Yeah, nicely delivered. Lots and lots of seed head. So I would almost say seed head with common blue. The background is a little bit noisy, and the green is a little bit of a suspect colour. But I'm finding that I spend all my time looking down here and not a lot looking up there. I do wonder, is it an image where we should have focused on this area rather than all of it? He's a little bit maybe not quite so sharp as we would like, I think. The depth of field is disappearing off up the back there, yeah, and his wings are just in that little bit soft. So it's a nice image. It works quite well. I just think there's too many different things and different elements to look at. I'm enjoying all of the textures and the details in here, and then this guy's almost an afterthought. But 16. Okay, catching up, seen this before. Enjoying this silhouette. I like this a lot. There's obviously an engagement and a discussion going on, but I wish this guy was looking in so it looked like they were connected to each other. I'm finding this light just a little bit bright and insistent, and a few small distractions here and there just don't work for me. Very, very noisy in the background as well, probably because it's shot at night and you're struggling with the lighting, but you can see all the speckles, and it just doesn't feel nice. And so this one doesn't work for me and is a 14. Yeah, nice owl landing, coming in, frozen perfectly, super sharp all the way through, eyes intent. You wouldn't want to get in the way of those claws at all, would you? I think all that works fine. I think the issue with this is that background's just very, very, very detailed, and I can see you've knocked it back. and I think I probably would have decontrasted it maybe to bring a bit more to soften all these areas out, because I am finding it is a little bit distracting, but still a very nicely delivered image. Nice post coming right out the corner, works very well. Nice detail and lighting in here, and so it's still an 18, but I think just that background just does take the edge off, so we'll let that go. Okay, making a new dynasty, depends which part of your country you're in. Yeah, they certainly are at that moment, aren't they? Great piece of action photography. Depth of field is well handled. Background is fairly diffuse, but there's no light in it. Again, it's just drab, isn't it? The colours are lacking in intensity. I might have warmed this up a little bit, brought a little bit more life, brought some highlights into it. It just feels very sort of, muted, and maybe it was in the shade, and maybe you've tried to mute all the background down, but somehow lost the sparkle in here as well. So it's a strong image. It works very well, but I just think unfortunately it just is lacking that little bit of sparkle that we're really looking for. But nonetheless, that's still a 19, and very nicely executed by our author. Okay, Blue Mood, very artistic, very cold feeling, wake of a boat, I guess, or something like that. Really nice abstract image, beautiful difference in the tones and the shapes. I think this area is certainly the strongest. As we go out here a little bit, it becomes a little bit flat and a little bit grey, but I think overall is still a very strong composition. I think we sort of walk around here and then follow out and through and then drop back round again, and it almost looks like paint being stirred or something, and whether you treated it that way or not, we really don't mind. Nice letterbox format of the image to just give us just what we're looking for, and I think, yeah, well thought through and really nicely delivered. 18. Uncle, yeah. I've seen this before as well. Beautiful detail, fabulous beard. If I could grow a beard like that, mind you, I think it aged me a little bit. Enjoying the fact that we can differentiate his hat from the background. It does come across quite well, and the key line around it just really helps a little bit. Nice catch lights in the eyes, works well. I guess are we in a studio? But I'm liking the broad lighting here. I think this works very well, and it does give us that modelling, and we still got just enough light in the back of it to just see it. And yeah, this is another 20, well delivered. Lunch break. I looked at this, and I looked at this, and I looked at this, and I was like, is he in water? Where's the what's going on here? I don't know, and I'm not quite sure what he's sitting on a marble bench maybe, but the fact we've got the reflection, I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm not sure what that is. Is that an editing artifact or something? He is eating, because he's got that funny eating look on his face, isn't he? Which I'm never sure is the right time to photograph someone, but it does work okay. I just think this might, we like the luminosity of this, and I'm enjoying that as a PDI. It's not white, but it is very bright, and I do wonder, as a print, would this come out better on a nice luster paper maybe, rather than anything else? Yeah, we've got another funny sort of thing going on there. So it's a intriguing image. It does make me wonder of where's the edge of whatever it is he's sitting on. Is kind of bizarre, which asks questions, so that's always a good thing. So yeah, but this yeah, just bugs me. So 17 for me for this one. Intriguing. Gannet family life on the cliff. Okay, yeah. Bempton Cliffs or something, Farn or somewhere like that. 3 adults and 2 juveniles. I just think this is, as a piece of nature photography, it's delightful. The wing out round the parent is kind of strange, but okay, fine. beautifully exposed, none of the white's blown, real sensitivity for the nature here, and I think that does work well. Shame about the gannet in the background. I think you need to be a little bit braver darkening that down. I do wonder whether you have. But that's fine. It works okay, and I just think it's a beautiful moment, and I think we should applaud you for seeing it and capturing it with enough depth of field to get that beautiful feather detail in here, and this a face that only the mother could love, I guess, in the adolescent or the junior there. So yeah, really really beautiful, nice cliffs, enjoying all the bird poop. It is exactly what they're like, and I can sit here and almost imagine the noise and the smell, and I think you've done really really well, and that is a 20. Running through the curves, beautiful, beautiful tonnage change in these, here as we go through. It does look a little bit speckly, which I'm not quite sure why, but it's such a shame because you can see all the little speckles here. Maybe it's how you've processed it. Love the silhouette, really think that works. Very, very strong. And if it wasn't for the speckles, would be in contention for a 20, but I just think just not there. Great position of the our runner here. Some people might say, oh, maybe he should be back there, but I like the tension of him being on a third heading out of the screen, and I think that works really really well. Just love to know what's going on with this speckling in your sky. Such a shame, but still a very strong image. 18. Long Bay. I've judged this somewhere, and I think I asked last time, and it was a while ago. Did we need this across? Did I feel like it was a barrier to me to get across into the rest of the image? And I'm still thinking the same now. Nice letterbox, nice misty foreground. I think works. And the hustle and bustle of the port is very strong. I do wonder, and I seeing this again. What are the colours of this? Are there beautiful colours, or do they all look dingy and horrible? But was monochrome the right choice? I don't know. It's a strong image. It's well delivered. The sea certainly gives you context. They're just a little bit overlapping, really. I think it's certainly in this area. Do we need the boats on the right? I don't know. I don't think we necessarily needed them, but I think it's a strong rather than an exceptional image, but certainly above average. 17. Um, Helenium, if I'm pronouncing that right, Helenium varieties. Yeah, you could easily see this as an illustration in a botanist's book, and it comes across really well. I like the way that you've broken the third wall or the fourth wall, whatever you want to call it, as you've gone outside of the frames for it. I think that all works. The colours tie together very well. The use of red and yellow across all of them are very strong, aren't they? And photographically, they've all been taken very, very well. I just think it just they were a little flat. Everything is beautifully delivered, but we're missing some magical light, and I think it's almost become more illustration rather than photography. But nonetheless, I think it's a very powerful and strong triptych, and therefore deserves a 19. So well done. Um, the way in. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Were you inside the rope? Did you get told off? Tate Modern, maybe? Yeah, well handled lighting, actually, given that you've got blacks here and white and then someone in black. I'm enjoying following the leading line through. I think that's all very good. I think it does work well. I think the white is a little insistent. Maybe this would work well as a print. As the white is just a little bit powerful, but nonetheless I think very strong. I would have been tempted maybe to remove this. I just think this is the bit that distracts me a little and gets in the way, but nonetheless still an 18 and a very powerful image and well delivered. Here we go, last two. Yeah, seen this before. Crow's feet and Beetlejuice. Yeah, I guess, yeah, those teeth are pretty wonderful, aren't they? Very flat lighting, um, focused on the face, but there's no real modelling lighting on it. The arm coming out of the face just feels a little awkward and distracting. She certainly has engaged with you, and I think that's a good thing. But I am just finding that the unusual tilt and it just not quite there for me. The blue tone of her outfit works very well with the marble. I think all that is muted and doesn't distract, but I'm finding that there's just no real modelling lighting on here at all. And just because she's quite exotic looking, doesn't lift it necessarily. This one is a 16. Okay, preparing his morning offering. Yeah, it's an interesting one, this one, isn't it? Very exotic, very interesting. Sorry for the creak of the chair. Nice skin tones, nice lighting. It's just not sharp. I don't know if he moved, uh, yeah, it just doesn't feel sharp in the nose. I'm not quite sure why or what's gone on. This is all a little bit distracting up here, but I don't think. Oh, the chair's going again. There's a lot you could do about that. Certainly exotic, but doesn't work for me because I don't know if his face was moving and you were using a very slow shutter speed or a little bit of camera movement. It's just let it down really. So this one is a 16 for me. Okay, so I think that is the last image. I've been asked to give my favourite image or what I think is the best image, and it's very difficult. I'm going to skip back. This technology doesn't help me get there. I guess there are two real candidates, or three, I should say, for me, and I'll go back to the first one and then we'll come forward. This one I just think is of technical photography is just absolutely beautiful. The detail in here is fantastic. I think it works really, really well. And so certainly that is a contender. And I think if we then skip forward to our uncle here, he's engaged with me. He almost looks like he's just pulled back a little bit and, maybe not quite so enchanted with us. And therefore, but it has atmosphere and it has life, and you've really handled the dark background very, very well, and I do enjoy the beard. And then the last one I think, that would consider, and maybe it's a personal preference. I am a photographer that does shoot lots of nature, and therefore, it does have a bit of a personal resonates with me, and I think this one for me is my number one. I think it's such an unusual point of view. We don't normally get to this level with the birds. It's normally done from above. The interaction here of the two families, I think, works very, very well. The lighting is sympathetic and works for you, and so this one is, I think, for me personally, my best image. But any of the other two would, be very worthy of consideration, as I said. So that concludes the competition for today. I'm not sure who's won. I guess the guys will add up the scores. They're all in the competition, so they can take them. Thank you for putting in a very intriguing, very different set of images. I hope you've enjoyed my judging as much as I've enjoyed your photography. And good luck and keep safe in these very difficult times. And I hope at some point we'll be able to get back to the clubs and see you face to face. Thank you very much for your time.